When Star Trek first aired in the 1960s, access to media was so much more limited than it is today that British comic book writers, tasked with adapting the series ahead of its debut on UK television in 1969, had to take a number of creative liberties because they hadn't had access to episodes of the original series. An edition of CBR.com's Comic Book Legends Revealed column from 2017 explored the Star Trek comic strip published in the British comic anthology Joe 90, which fans of the franchise will recognize as a fascinating footnote in the multimedia history of Trek. That is because of the strip's strange divergences from the original series, but also because of how it speaks to the propagation of Star Trek and other American cultural exports during the analog era, long before the internet changed how people all over the world access content. In the 1960s, American television was not accessible to international audiences the way that it is today. In 1969, the three-season run of Star Trek, the original series, ended in June, while just a month later, the BBC began airing the series from season 1 on British television. Several months before that debut, Star Trek comics began to appear in the Joe 90 anthology as a kind of advanced landing party, or away team, in the parlance of the Next Generation and later series, for the TV show. However, as explained by CBR, the creator of these comics, Harry Linfield, had not actually seen the series, but rather was limited to the use of promotional material in order to replicate the visual style of the show and the likenesses of the cast. Though CBR does not go into detail about the story, it can be presumed that Linfield was given a basic overview of the show's premise and its style of storytelling. Yet what makes the early British Star Trek comic strips so fun to examine are the ways in which they wildly depart from the original series. Most infamous, of course, is the fact that Captain Kirk is misnamed as Kurt in the first several strips, which, by today's standards, might seem like a major blunder or a glaring oversight. But in the late 1960s, it was more of a sign of how little thought was put into coordinating the multimedia effort for a property like Star Trek. The instinct was there, as evidenced by the comic's existence in itself, yet there was much less of a dedication to consistency, if nothing else.